Good afternoon, and welcome to Patriot Paths. My name is Lake Green, and today we are standing right in front of the famous Alamo, a site of a pivotal battle in the Texas Revolution here in San Antonio, Texas. Let's check it out. So directly behind me is the Alamo Mission. This building was built originally in 1718 by Spanish missionaries, part of the Franciscan order. And it was actually built as a religious building, hoping that Native Americans in this area, which became eventually Texas in the United States, but was then part of the Spanish Empire, would convert to Christianity and Catholicism. By 1793, however, the building had become secularized, which means that it didn't serve a religious purpose any longer. About 20 or 30 years after that, by the early 1820s, Spain's power was in total decline. And after Napoleon began his wars in Europe, and the Spanish king Ferdinand was deposed, or really held prisoner by Napoleon, uprisings throughout Latin America began, in which a lot of these countries that became part of Latin America today earned their independence from Spain. Mexico was no exception. In 1821, after the Treaty of Cordoba was signed, Mexico became its own independent nation. Within 13 years, however, there was more upheaval in Mexico. Even though Mexico was founded as a republic and their early government copied the American Federalist style, that didn't last long. Eventually, a man named Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna became the president of Mexico, and uprisings responded as he began to rule as an autocrat. Eventually, in 1835, at the Battle of Gonzales, rebels in Texas actually fired a cannon at Mexican soldiers, and that was when the famous "Come and Take It" flag, that white flag with a cannon on the back, really originated. And that really started what became the Texas Revolution. A couple months later, February of 1836, there were 200 soldiers stationed back here in this mission. And eventually, 200 soldiers fighting for Texas actually started to gather and make this into a fortress. This building had served as a fort, however, about 20 years prior. By the early 1800s, Spanish men in the military, militia members from this area of the empire, converted the old mission to a fortress. That's where the name the Alamo became used, because the Alamo was actually Spanish for cottonwood trees, and these are the type of trees that grew around the building. That's why it was referred to as the Alamo. These 200 men were led by William B. Travis, Jim Bowie, and eventually another leader came from Tennessee, the famous American folk hero Davy Crockett. These three men, along with 200 other defenders held out at this building for 13 full days. Santa Anna surrounded the building with 2,000 Mexican soldiers and demanded their surrender. Eventually, on March 6th, the men were attacked by the Mexican soldiers in the middle of the morning, about 5:30 a.m. They scaled the walls and all 200 were killed. Santa Anna showed no mercy. However, not even 2 months later, at the Battle of San Jacinto, an army led by the General Sam Houston actually won the war for Texas independence, and the men who participated in that battle attacked Santa Anna's army, shouting the famous words, "Remember the Alamo." So even though these 200 men, mostly from America, many also native Texans, right, Tejanos, Spanish, Hispanic-speaking Texans, ended in a failure, it was a rallying cry for all those fighting for Texas independence. So this building is really part of American history. And the reason why I love talking about the Texas Revolution so much, and why this is a unique video on my channel, not just because we're now in the Southwest, south of the country, when usually most of my videos are on the East Coast, is because the Alamo is an American story. It showed that people from all different backgrounds, even though many of them were white American of European descent from the United States, they joined together with Hispanics from Mexico, and they all fought for the common cause of liberty. And while actually William B. Travis led his men inside this fortress for those 13 days, on February 24th, he penned a letter that was then sent and then was actually circulated throughout the United States and Europe. And this short letter, Travis writes, "I'm in this building, I'm surrounded, I may die, but I'm going to fight for liberty." And it really, the Texas Revolution shows that American values, those of self-government, personal individual freedom, extend beyond ethnic, or national origin, and they're applicable to all people who believe in them. After Texas won its independence in 1836, it wasn't part of the United States for another 9 years, however, until 1845, when President James K. Polk, the 11th American president, annexed Texas and made it part of the United States. So this video has been the Alamo. Thank you so much for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Patriot Paths. I'm Lake Green.